Everybody, and welcome back to the Blockchain Chronicles. My name is Jude Newcomb. I'm excited to have back a guest that was on recently. This is Tyler from the High Roller Hippo Clique. Thought it would be good to come back on and give an update on some progress and maybe also talk about the state of the NFT industry right now. Tyler, how are you?
Hey, what's going on, Drew? Thanks for having me today, and glad to be back on the show. Really looking forward to today's discussion and, getting to some updates.
Yeah, definitely. Before we get into that, just talking about the last time we had you on, I know from, I'm the social media director of Metrics. You're the founder, co-founder, of High Roller Hippo Clique. But when I showed the first episode that we did to the Metrics community, there was a lot of interest in it, especially in the maybe like last 10, 15 minutes where you really gave some good information to people that were looking to create, a brand or an NFT collection of their own. It was like a 10-point attack plan. How do you think, a few months into your own experience in NFTs, how do you think you've been living up to that 10-point plan yourself?
It's actually interesting, and that's a great question. The perspective on value overall has really changed for me, especially over the past 90 days. So, taking a look at, the original, I'll say, High Roller Hippo Clique roadmap that we had, there was actually a whole list of 10 to 15 priorities. And we were all about executing each one of those, really focusing on driving, utility and revenue share and all of these, I'll say quantitative benefits back to the holders. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of just my, innate personality in terms of being a, I'll say a shitcoin trader in the past. I've actually thought, all of these things that had great buzzwords and great ideas and great, I'll just say innovation or some type of quantitative benefit back to holders was actually more valuable than looking at just the basics of NFTs. And in my mind, my perspective has changed a little bit where the art community, overall health of the project is driven by, everybody that's in the space and how they contribute in their own way, whether it's marketing or whether it's just having these type of podcasts or, how the community really comes together and actually markets the product or service for you. Mm-hmm. And sometimes what we're actually developing is not a product or service, it's just a brand. So long story short, I think really what NFTs have driven is you're able to make a multi-million-dollar, if not $100 million brand similar to DeGods occur over a 90-day period. And their whole backing is done by having a solid community with a grassroots, decentralized approach to everything they do.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming from the crypto side, Metrics is a rebrand from a coin called Linda Coin that came out in 2017. Originally, when that came out, masternodes, I don't know if you remember those, but masternodes were, all the rage and getting a huge ROI on your masternode staking. The Linda Coin originally was a 99% ROI on your holding throughout the year. So just completely inflationary, but, done so that, it was just kind of like this hyped up, like you said, quantitative kind of benefit to people that held, but completely unsustainable. And, over the years, we've had to eliminate the 99% ROI, get it more to a deflationary model. It's down to 10% ROI, and coming up in October, it's going to be cut in half to 5% for a couple of years. But it's more like you said, like we rebranded to Metrics. We created this Metroid community, so everybody that holds is a Metroid, and we really try to come together to build a community and run the project as a community. I see that with the Hippo Clique, and also with the DAO that you've created. Can you talk a little bit about the DAO? And for anybody that might not really understand exactly what a DAO does, could you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, that would, so from my, understanding, everybody always refers to the DAO as, there's different perspectives to it, but realistically what it is it's a decentralized autonomous organization. And with that being said, if you look at a corporate entity where everything's structured in a way that's centralized, or you have a board of directors and the entire organization is running from the top, and realistically, it all goes back to the CEO. Even with, some of the experiences you mentioned, masternodes, for example, there was always a head of a project where they were driving the roadmap, driving the, agenda, priorities, things of that nature. And it wasn't based on a voting or, some type of, decentralized voting process. It was actually just a, dictator basically driving the direction of the project, right?
Yeah.
And brand. You look at something like Ripple, which I hope there's not too many Ripple holders here that'll be offended by this. Like, my definition of shitcoin is Ripple, where you have a company that was based on a centralized blockchain, and even the team is all centralized in nature. And they actually have an escrow, which they receive every quarter and dump on their holders. I think when you look at a decentralized autonomous organization, what you're trying to do is establish a community with, I'll say, heads of departments that operate together and vote on proposals. You look at Bored Ape Yacht Club, they actually have a proposal board where somebody can go up and make a proposal, and all of the holders of that NFT, can use their ape coin or whatever it is in the ecosystem for that project. They can use that token to vote and cast, votes on what direction do you want the project to take? Does that proposal get passed? And if yes, then, what's the next step in terms of pushing that or executing on that vision? So it's actually interesting to me that the decentralized, I'll just call it the decentralized corporate structure works in a way where it's scalable, and you're really empowering the people, which is what the cryptocurrency story is all about, is empowering people in a decentralized manner.
Yeah, and we have a similar thing now. So instead of master nodes, we have governor nodes. So if you hold 7.5 million metrics, you become a governor, and then you're able to vote on budgets, and you're able to propose things yourselves. So it's similar in that fashion, where it comes from the community itself. Do members of the DAO for the Hippo Clique, do they come from outside the Hippo Clique, or is it community members that A, join? I guess you've already answered that, but B, like, get positions within the DAO itself?
Yeah, so right now, the only folks that are actually eligible to join the DAO Council are holders. We actually actively have the voting process underway again, because we're kind of reinvigorating the DAO and getting folks that are more active, setting up a first team lead and then a second supporting team lead, as well as, developing standard operating procedures to make sure that it's sustaining long term.
Yep.
And that way, as people come and go, because that's just like any part of a business, is you will have employees that leave, you will have team members that leave, and ultimately we will have folks that, for whatever reason, need to exit the project. And that's where, really having that standard operating procedure and that the write-up and transition plan in place will make sure that it's sustainable long-term, and people are still participating and engaging with the community across the board. So in my mind, it's realistic that all of these projects are actually holders as well, because then they have a vested interest in ensuring that the project is successful long-term, and also that the team is making the right decisions, on behalf of the community. So
right. I guess kind of moving away from that just a little bit and talking about kind of things that I've kind of noticed recently with the Hippo project. I've seen you do a lot of marketing with Twitter Spaces. Uh, is that something that before you kind of got into NFTs and creating your own collection, like you noticed, or what is the power of something like Twitter Spaces? Because that's something that you know, again, from my perspective, it's something that either is underutilized or not utilized at all from the metrics perspective.
Yeah, this is this is an interesting story and topic because the Twitter space has always been known as crypto Twitter or CT, right?
Yeah.
For sure. And I'm sure you're very, very familiar with the peaks and valleys of crypto and how over the past 10 years, I'll say crypto Twitter really started, 2012, 2013, with all of the Bitcoin and altcoin trading and everything, in which people were able to interact and really communicate most of the time through shit posting on Twitter, right? Mm-hmm. And now you give, Twitter as a platform is actually providing, basically a free place for open mic in which anybody can come up, share their ideas, host or co-host, and really bring an audience of rather large size in a short period of time. And that's actually something that to me is enormous for this space because you're able to have folks who speak freely and come and converse about any type of topic, whether it's providing alpha with other communities or just reviewing other projects or advising other projects and really just ultimately being able to build out something that typically would not happen overnight. You could actually do it in the blink of an eye. Within 30 minutes you could have 100 or 200 or even 1,000 people join a space talking about the latest OpenSea launch or Balloonsville or whatever topic comes to mind with the NFT space, especially on the Solana side. So,
yeah. And a lot of these that you do are in tandem with other projects, right? That the Hippo Clique is partnered with. Speaking of the partnerships, how many do you guys have now? Because it seems like everybody wants to work with the Hippo Clique, and you guys are open arms to that possibility.
At this point, that's actually a good point. And I think we need to maybe add a section of partners, but at the same time, it's actually something that, to me, I feel like all of these Solana NFT projects and the whole ecosystem benefit from people sharing synergies across their platforms or even across their communities, right? So in my mind, the realistic, approach to just building out partnerships and making as many friends as possible is just like any business where they're going to direct traffic your way, whether that's through the casino, arcade, etc., or other type of entertainment, forms of entertainment we might be building, like play to earn games or PvP games or whatever the case may be. I think in turn, when you look at another project like Audius, for example, that provides music, that's an integration that they provide freely and you can connect into your ecosystem or use it within your community, and you're really just marketing, doing a two-way marketing, both on the, I'll say B2B side where each business is recognizing each other as a partner, or, even on the, B2C side where if there's something that's monetized within their environment, whether it's paid ads or other services, maybe Audius would get some type of benefit from that. I'm just using them as the first example.
Right.
But realistically, what we're trying to build is the foundation of the metaverse, for having a plug and play casino, arcade, etc. that's 3D. We would like to be able to do that with all of our metaverse partners. Mm-hmm. And then in addition, when we have 3D baby hippos running around that environment shortly, we're setting up the characters to be able to be playable, and people are interacting in their own digital form or identity as part of our community.
Yeah.
And that also, just to elaborate one more time on the partnership, everybody can be seen as a partner in some form. It could be just having Twitter spaces where you collaborate and chat. It could be, somebody's like, where can I, go play games? Okay, just go hit, casino.hrhc.io.
Yes.
That's another, benefit because they're able to enjoy some type of entertainment. Or maybe we do white labeled games for their community, or vice versa. We might actually go use Yaku and ride around on their bikes with hippos. So it's really about, cross pollinating and cross collaborating with other communities. And I think it could be any form of partnership if you look at it a different way.
Yeah, and I think you guys do a great job at it. Like pretty much every day or every other day, you can count on some sort of communication with the public, or a Twitter space with another community. It's really impressive. Something that I could probably learn one or two things from, but I think you guys are doing a great job with expanding your reach. Talking about metaverses. I'm not a developer, so I find all this stuff like very interesting. And I know you're not technically a developer either, but when we're talking about metaverse and you're talking about hippos and running around like all these other kind of metaverses that exist, and you're partnered with quite a few, is that from as far as from a technical standpoint, is it you build what you need to build in-house, and then you work with the developing team from whoever you're partnering with, and they just kind of dump in the hippos into that platform? Or like what is that process like, or how complex is it?
Yeah, so there's really a lot of different requirements you could look at, all the way down to the Hippo model, the base mesh, how everything, all of the layers will occur when you do a 3D generative art. So, we've been working with a lot with Malabranch, who's kind of the expert in the metaverse space in Solana. And he's actually kind of been giving us some advisory as to how these models can operate in one of the, I'll say the top tier metaverse projects like Portals, for example, like the number of polygons that need to be met in terms of quality, as well as, the file formats, as well as the playable, application or animations that are required, and what applications are used in order to process them. There's a lot of technical stuff that goes into it, and it's all almost Chinese to me. And I don't speak Chinese, so I think one of the things that we really do is try to enable the community to get involved and really help drive these decisions. Even if you look at some of the game development and all the other stuff, we actually handle most of that custom in-house. But at the same time, we're actually pulling from other resources and other team members like Vanzig or Pen Pushes for video content, or whoever the case may be. There's a lot of people that are contributing as a team, as opposed to coming from one central source, which makes us stronger, right?
Yeah.
And you can really say that everything is driven, I'll say from a centralized standpoint. You have to take all the perspectives into account. Because with each one of these metaverse partners, for example, there might be 10 different file formats, or 10 different levels of quality, like whether it's a web browser based version of a 3D or virtual reality, or whatever the case may be. There's different requirements in each one of those settings, and what we're really trying to do is try to build out one that it's a one size fits all type of view. Yep. And make sure that we're as operable with as many projects as possible, because otherwise we're going to be, shit out of luck when we go to some of the top tier metaverse projects and we're just not compatible. Yep. So that's what we're really focused on, and that's the bigger time consuming, between energy, resources, and budget. We want to make sure we're fully aligned on that as well.
So I guess the next step in the process would be to complete the art, if it's not already completed, for the actual 3D hippos and or baby hippos, and then go from there. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, we're looking at a few different things right now. We're looking at, I have a few surprises up my sleeve in terms of, the potential upgrade of our Gen 1 profile pic.
Yep.
As well as, looking at the, looking at the overall, art for the metaverse. We actually have the 3D baby hippos. We have the metaverse casino itself, like 150 floor skyscraper that we're looking on adding into Yaku, for example, or the arcade games where we have some type of Pac-Man type machine, which is thrown into a Sweets, which is another one of our partners. There's a lot of different avenues that we're looking at and a lot of different assets that need to be built. We're working on all of them almost at the same time. And even, just in general, I think the space is evolving, because on a week-to-week basis, it's almost like, well, somebody needs this and somebody needs that. And, we don't share all of that publicly, but we do try to keep building on all these assets, models, and, I'll just say the backbone of the metaverse infrastructure that really needs to be put in place in order for this to be scalable the 3 to 5 years down the road.
Yeah.
So,
and that sounds like a lot of work. I know the community can be very important, obviously, to the success of any project. But with what you just described, there's a lot of actual real work that needs to be done in a reliable way, that doesn't necessarily come from volunteership from the community, because that can be no knock against communities and volunteering, but that can be a little unreliable sometimes. So how's the team getting along with all this workload, and you yourself? I mean, we were talking a little bit before we started streaming here, kind of about burnout and taking care of yourself. How has that played into your life now, for almost 4.5 months into the process?
Yeah, so I think it's actually changed a lot, in terms of trying to balance the workload. I'd say we're trying to be able to push down and delegate a lot more of the work to the community, which is hopefully the reason behind our DAO implementation and reinvigoration of that entire structure.
Yep.
Making sure that the organization is scalable, everybody has assigned roles and responsibilities and knows how they're supposed to execute along the way. I think that would actually take a lot of the workload off our plate. And now that the new UX UI is live with the mobile and responsive functionality, I think that's something that will be a lot, more scalable for games or other additions to the website down the road. I think the past 3 months, nobody really sees it. I mean, there's a few people within the community, but overall, we're spending, anywhere from 8 to 12 hours, I'll just say, on a daily basis, answering questions, talking to people, communicating with other communities, working on business development and partnerships and things of that nature. And it really doesn't stop. And crypto is 24/7. It's not like the stock market where it's 9 to 5.
Right.
And that's something that actually it actually drives a little bit more stress and a little bit more excitement, right, overnight, because you're able to chat in these Twitter spaces or do other additional, I'll just say meetups or town halls outside of something that you typically be doing and just limited to work. So in my mind, the team's actually becoming more scalable. We've been onboarding a lot of devs. We're, like I said, the DAO process with the 20 or so people that are being assigned to the DAO council is really going to help us. And I think long term, we're actually creating something that will not have a expiration date. So the work-life balance over the past 90 days was a little bit almost unbearable, but it was worth it, because I think we're getting to the point where we'll be able to transfer some of the ownership and put some of the onus back on our holders in our community.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. And the one thing that I didn't talk to you about before we started recording is, similar along those lines is, do I think it's worth it? And yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was on track to getting a PhD and I cut that short to just take my master's and really, devote this portion of my life to this process. And I was getting to a point where I was like, what am I spending more time on, and what do I want to spend more time on in it? And it was always this, like it was the blockchain project that I was invested in, with metrics. And I can say the same thing about NFTs. Like it's just something that interests me, that I love, that like it is work and it feels like work sometimes, but also at the same time, it kind of doesn't feel like it at other times, you know?
Yeah, I think that's one thing as a fellow project owner, now both of us realize, you guys have actually stuck around long term. I can tell that your community and everybody that is supporting you actually shares the same vision. I believe similar to you almost had to go through a rebrand, and we're kind of doing that with Roadmap 2.0 with new art, reinvigoration of the DAO, and ultimately trying to energize and engage our communities in different ways and starting to partner and collab with as many projects as possible. It's something that is a hurdle, but in the end, it only makes the project stronger, right?
Yeah.
So,
Do you, I just find this interesting. Like, what do you consider to be successful when you look at High Roller Hippo Clique? I mean, you're well above the mint price, from when the project came out. You're well above what the price got to shortly after you guys minted, right? Like it actually went down. You were less than 1 SOL per Hippo, but you recovered from that. The price saw like a good escalation, and now it's kind of settled back into like a 3 to 4 SOL kind of range. Is that something that you really pay attention to? Does it give you any insight, or do you just keep the focus clearly on the development, expansion of partnerships, getting everything set, and let the price kind of do what it does?
it's actually a really interesting question, because with the liquidity of the NFT market, that's much different than the liquidity of a trading, I'll say a trading environment, or somebody that's actually trading a coin or token, right? With that being said, the market cap is very low based on the existing floor price. However, there's only 150 or so listed. And I think anybody that looks at an NFT, for just the floor price or the market cap, I think is a little bit short-sighted in the sense where they're only looking at it most likely to flip, right? And I have no problem with anybody that actually exits our project, but if you look at the number of holders that have been holding, longer than 60 days, even, I think 85% of those people have actually been holding longer than 60 days, which is actually really impressive. And I think overall, to answer your question, we do want to show that we have, a increased value to our holders, or an increased appearance of luxury as our brand, because we're 5x up from mint price. I think one of the focuses, though, for us is really generating volume, generating excitement about the community, and how do we actually do that better than just building, right? And I think our KPI is not necessarily floor price. I think it's actually based on the amount of stuff that we've delivered, and we've delivered on time. And it's unfortunate. Sometimes it's viewed as a, just some type of get rich quick type of scheme.
Yeah.
However, going forward, I think it's going to be seen as, okay, what projects have been around the longest and have continued to build, and even through a bear market, I'll call it a mini bear market in the NFT cycle, who's going to come out on top. Yep. And that's, to me, what the question you asked, is actually relevant in all of these cases, because there's a different perspective from each one of those traders and each one of those members of the community. One might be here to flip. One might be here to be a stakeholder and contribute in some way. And then there might be somebody, another category that falls under like super fan or something that actually contributes on all fronts, helps with the marketing, helps with the business development, finds other opportunities, and then ultimately also provides value back to the community in many different ways, and might even trade at the same time. Who knows? They might be providing alpha, but they're really just here to build cool shit, develop new relationships, and network with people that have that share the same vision long term.
Yeah. I haven't listed a Hippo, I don't think for months and months. But yesterday was a big day for the Hippos, right? With the integration of the Solana network into OpenSea. For people that don't know, that are listening, the Solana network up to this point basically had one like major marketplace for their trading that did the bulk of their trading, and it was called and is called Magic Eden. There's a similar type of marketplace, but mainly for Ethereum projects, and I think Matic is also on there, but generally all Ethereum projects trade on OpenSea. And there's been big buzz in the industry lately that Solana was going to be integrated, and that actually happened yesterday. I did take one of my hippos that I had staking, and I just threw it on OpenSea just to see, if I caught like a high price, then I would just reinvest that and get 2 hippos, in return. That did not happen. There was some issues yesterday, not with the Hippo Clique, but kind of with the integration process, Solana, the network itself, having pretty low transactions per second. And that's kind of been something that has been happening, I would say, over the past couple months, maybe more. Do you have any worries about, the Solana network itself, or kind of what the struggles of the TPS has been recently?
I think it's something that's been a constant, I'll just say chain of worry across the ecosystem, because people are still not confident in the Solana chain's ability to provide a high TPS, like 50K TPS, like it was advertised.
Right.
However, I will say with the number of bots that are spamming the network, as well as all of the projects minting and all the above,
it's incredible.
I would much rather not have to spend a $3,000 gas fee on minting an NFT project than not be able to buy or sell something for an hour.
Right.
And that's just my perspective based off of my ETH NFT experience or other chains. It's not, I do feel as though there's an opportunity and they're working through it. It's actually like a duplicate packet issue or something technical, where people are actually able to spam, and that's why the transactions aren't confirming within 60 seconds. But I think that's going to be corrected, and it has a high priority for this quarter. So hopefully if they can, really, once again, if they can build through this and people don't get hung up on the fact that they are learning along the way, just like the rest of us, I think Solana will be the best long-term chain for not only NFTs, but DeFi and all these other applications, because it is technically supposed to be the most scalable, or one of the most scalable.
Yeah. And, with a cheap transaction fee to go with it. Yeah, I mean, is that something yesterday that you were really kind of holding your breath for with the integration process? Were you expecting of any, or expectant of any type of outcome, or were you just kind of sitting back, just kind of seeing how is this going to go? How, is there going to be high transaction, rates going on with people buying and selling hippos or other Solana projects, or were you just more, let's just see what happens?
I'm always I'm not a wing it type of person, because I always try to think, down the road, like what's the best opportunity for us? Are we able to, take this cross chain, or are we able to, develop additional functionality or features or even applications in general that will provide value, whether it's on this chain or another. I think the one thing that I'm always constantly trying to consider is what is the next narrative. And I think really where we're headed now is, play to earn games. Whoever makes the biggest blockbuster game now, similar to, whether it's a first person shooter like, Counter-Strike, or whether it's the next RPG game like World of Warcraft or something along those lines. That's something that's going to drive the next narrative. And if they incorporate that into Web3 or blockchain in general, I think that that project will have a very long shelf life.
Yep.
I know long term, this will be something that I always try to do, is just accommodate the next narrative, get in front of the next up and coming thing. And I think play to earn is going to be one of those ones that's here to stay long term. And that's why also with the 3D modeling and baby hippos and the metaverse setup, we're preparing for a plug and play model wherever we go. So
yeah, is that I was just thinking, while you were talking about the things that you have upcoming, what are some things, because maybe we can do this again in another few months, and I can ask you, well, how did this go? How did X go? What are some things that you want me to ask you in the future about how they went?
I think overall everything here is an experiment. And, I'm learning along the way here because it's much different than the corporate world. The questions that I'd really be asking myself is, was the community right? And that's like a question that I'll ask over and over again, because the way that we're going with this decentralized model is, okay, they're going to be able to put up proposals and the community is going to be able to vote on what they want next. Originally it was the rev share and all this revenue, I'll say daily airdrops of SOL into their wallet. And now I'm thinking with, how DGods or SMB or Teo robots and all these other projects are playing out. It's really about community alpha and networking, and maybe even lore, right? Some of the story behind projects and why things occur. People want to feel like they're part of something more. So some of the questions that I'd really ask is, is the DAO able to drive the project in a successful direction, almost without anybody leading the ship, right? Because like when we do this, it's really important that you have very, very strong community members that are willing to participate, innovate, try new things, take risks, and think of the next up and coming event. I think that's going to be key for making sure that the project is seen as a leader in the space. Is, are you innovating? Are you building? Are you improving? Whether it's art, or utility, or just merch and other qualitative benefits long term.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing what comes from it as well. I think something that gives a little bit of solace is pointing out those other communities that you did that have been highly successful in kind of that decentralized way of governance and taking the next steps in their respective communities' directions. It eases concerns a little bit about excuse me, about how it will go with the hippos. It's dependent on who is in your community and what they can bring to the table. But seeing what DGods has done and SMB, like I said, it can ease the concerns a little bit. Heading into kind of the last portion of this catch up that we're doing here with podcast number 2, is there anything that you wanted to just kind of talk about or go over with the community, both communities, Metrics and High Roller Hippo Clique, that maybe we haven't talked about yet?
No, I do. I think one of the questions you bring up about the ability for us to go cross chain, or ability for, was it the right decision with Solana almost? I think that's something that, is always able to change.
Yep.
I think just because we have a community that's on one chain does not limit us to, I'll say going to another chain, or even looking at ways of interacting with our entertainment applications or decentralized model in a different form. So I think it's almost like, I don't know, Elon Musk, he sees the earth as one area of opportunity to grow, as well as electric, as well as all these other things. But realistically, he's thinking bigger picture, and he could go to Mars, tomorrow, and still set up a whole new world, right? And I think when you look at crypto a similar way, where you're not just limited to one chain, or you're not just limited to one piece of art, you're not just limited to all these applications. You can actually take it and evolve it and inspect and adapt in ways that, not only the community is responding, but also the entire narrative, and where everything's headed. Basically you're making yourself more agile, and you're making your ability to succeed much higher. So, some of the questions that I would have for you on the, matrix side, or metric side, sorry,
It's okay.
But I think long term, what are you guys planning on doing with the cross chain opportunity? Because the first person that builds out that bridge in which it's a easy to use user experience is probably going to have a massive influx of community members or people that are willing to use the products and
Right.
services.
Yep. Definitely. And I would love to have an answer for you, but that would be something for our developers. But we do have our swap site that we came out with about, I guess it's been a little over a year now. It came out with our wrapped metrics product. So we're able to be traded on the BSC and ETH networks, along with our very own, we have our own native network. So branching out even more using that site with places like Solana or, fill in the blank. But really, we would love to incorporate Solana into our swap site because it could open up a lot of opportunities.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to put your developers on the spot, but it sounds like you have a really strong development team, and your project is still kicking along, and community still seems to be vibing and getting along with the rest of even other cross-chain communities, which is really cool to me because that shows that they're really accepting and willing to reach out and extend their relationship, regardless of chain or regardless of what other projects are doing. I would love to at some point host a Twitter Spaces with you and the team, and we'll do this all live and really get to know more about each other's communities and almost have a free Q&A session for everybody to ask questions. That would be terrific.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And I'm sure our CEO would be, more than happy to join us on that. That would be great.
Well, I really appreciate your time today, and really it was great catching up. Really love the communities, both sides, and look forward to our third podcast, whenever that is.
Yeah, man, I'm ready. And, whenever you are, I'm always glad to talk to you, whether it's on one of these or just, in Discord. But I think what High Roller Hippo Clique is doing is admirable because it's not even always just about what's being put out for the public to consume. It's also what the public can see with their own eyes as far as what hard work and perseverance and tenacity and dedication, what that actually looks like. So I appreciate you being one of the leads on High Roller Hippo Clique, and it makes it, from my perspective, it helps me for how I should approach my day when I'm working for metrics. So thank you.
I appreciate it, Jude. Thank you again. And I think there's always lessons to be learned, and I'm still learning as well. So some things that you teach me, or even what we could do in the future together as a partnership, potentially. Wink, wink. Maybe that'll be something that we could look forward to down the road, if that's an opportunity that both of our communities agreed to.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, I appreciate you being here. And that was Tyler with High Roller Hippo Clique, and I'm Jude Newcomb, social media director for Metrics Coin. We hope that you enjoyed our discussion today. If you did and you want to leave a comment about how much you loved it, you can do that in the comment section below. If you have any questions, you can leave that in the comment section below. One of us will answer you. This will be available on Spotify and YouTube. So share it, rate it, give it a good review, and we will talk to you next time. Take care. Hey everyone, thanks for watching the Blockchain Chronicles. If you like anything that you heard today, please give the video a thumbs up. If you want to contribute to the conversation that was had between the guests, leave a comment below, and we'd love to get your thoughts. Also, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you'll get notified every time that we upload, which we are looking to do a couple times a week. So make sure you don't miss out. So once again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the future. Bye.